2,000 years ago, a man walked out of a sealed tomb. No tricks. No legend. Witnessed by hundreds. What Jesus did was either the greatest story ever told, or the greatest miracle ever recorded. The Gospels record dozens of miracles. Healings, resurrections, nature defied. Each one more impossible than the last. Tonight, we break them all down, and rank them by sheer impact. We're starting with a miracle that sounds simple, but when you run the numbers, it becomes deeply unsettling. The feeding of the 5,000. 5 loaves. 2 fish. Over 5,000 people fed. Matthew says 5,000 men, not counting women and children. Historians estimate the real number was closer to 20,000 people. 1 basket. 12 baskets of leftovers collected after. Explain that. Some scholars argue a sharing miracle, people simply shared food they had hidden. But the text is explicit, the food was created from nothing. That's not generosity. That's matter being generated from nowhere. Next, the miracle that breaks physics. The disciples are crossing the Sea of Galilee at night. A violent storm hits. And then they see something impossible walking toward them on top of the water. Jesus. Walking on open water. No surface. No trick. The disciples thought they were seeing a ghost. Peter actually stepped out and walked too, until his doubt sank him. The sea obeyed a command. Physics requires a surface to support mass. Water doesn't provide one. Yet multiple witnesses, experienced fishermen who knew these waters, all reported the same thing. This wasn't hysteria. This was testimony under scrutiny. The first miracle Jesus ever performed happened at a wedding in Cana. His mother told him the wine had run out. He turned 6 enormous stone water jars, holding up to 180 gallons, into wine. Not cheap wine either. The master of the banquet called it the best wine he'd ever tasted. Over 700 liters of premium wine, created in seconds. Chemistry doesn't work this way. Fermentation takes weeks. Before Jesus turned water to wine, water itself had already obeyed him. But this miracle is uniquely personal. It wasn't performed to fix a crisis, it was performed to honor a social moment. That distinction matters. Now we enter the realm of the truly terrifying. Resurrection. Not 1. Not 2. Jesus raised at least 3 people from the dead. The first, the son of a widow in the town of Nain. The boy was already on his way to burial. Jesus touched the stretcher. The pallbearers froze. He simply said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." And he sat up. Alive. Mid-funeral procession. The second resurrection, Jairus' daughter. She died while Jesus was still on his way. People told him not to bother coming. He entered the room and told the mourners she was only sleeping. They laughed at him. He took her hand. Said, "Talitha cumi, little girl, arise." She stood up immediately and asked for something to eat. The witnesses were described as overcome with great amazement. That's the Gospel of Mark being understated. But the third resurrection is the one that changes everything. Lazarus of Bethany. Dead for 4 days. Already buried. Already decomposing. The family warned Jesus, "Lord, by now there is a stench." Jesus wept first. Then commanded the stone rolled away. Then shouted into the darkness, "Lazarus, come out." And out of that black tomb, still wrapped in burial cloth, Lazarus walked. 4 days dead. Fully alive. This miracle is recorded with extraordinary detail, names, locations, even the specific protest of the sisters. Historians cannot simply dismiss it. It was this event that directly triggered the Sanhedrin's plot to arrest Jesus. Let's shift to the healings. Jesus healed dozens of people throughout his ministry. But some stand out as medically impossible. A man with a withered hand, healed in a synagogue on the Sabbath, instantly, visibly. Atrophied muscle doesn't regenerate in seconds. Nerve pathways severed by disease don't reconnect by command. This was done publicly, in front of the Pharisees specifically watching to accuse him. He healed anyway. Then there's the healing of 10 lepers. In ancient Israel, leprosy was a death sentence, social, physical, spiritual. These men were legally required to shout, "Unclean," wherever they walked. Outcasts completely. Jesus told them simply to go show themselves to the priests. As they walked, they were healed. Mid-stride. One turned back to thank him. Only one. Jesus noted it. Healing and gratitude are different miracles. At the pool of Bethesda, Jesus encountered a man who had been paralyzed for 38 years. 38. He had been waiting at that pool for most of his life, hoping the waters would heal him. Jesus asked him, "Do you want to get well?" An odd question to someone paralyzed 38 years. He told him to pick up his mat and walk. He did. Instantly. No ceremony. No ritual. One sentence. The healing of Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, captures something unique. When he heard Jesus was passing by, he screamed over the crowd. People told him to be quiet. He screamed louder. That persistence changed his life. Jesus asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" He said, "Rabbi, let me recover my sight." And he did. Immediately. John chapter 9 records a different blind man, born that way. Something even more staggering. A man blind from birth. Jesus made mud, placed it on his eyes, and told him to wash in the pool of Siloam. He went. He washed. He came back seeing. The Pharisees interrogated him for hours. He was unshakable. Congenital blindness means the visual cortex itself never developed properly. There's no medical pathway for healing that. You can't restore what was never built. Yet the man's neighbors confirmed, this is the same beggar. He sees. Back to the sea, because the calming of the storm deserves its own deep look. The disciples were seasoned fishermen. These weren't men who panicked easily. When they woke Jesus in terror, the storm was genuinely life-threatening. Jesus stood up. Rebuked the wind. Said, "Peace, be still." And the storm stopped. Instantly. Not gradually. Immediate flat calm. The disciples asked each other, "Who is this man, that even the wind and sea obey him?" One miracle disturbs people more than any other, the cursing of the fig tree. Jesus was hungry. The tree had leaves but no fruit. He cursed it. By the next morning it was completely withered to its roots. It's the only destructive miracle in the Gospels. Scholars believe it was a living parable. Israel had religious form but no spiritual fruit. The tree died overnight to make a permanent theological point. Now for the most terrifying miracle category, exorcisms. The Gerasene demoniac was a man so violent he couldn't be restrained with chains. He lived among tombs, cutting himself, screaming night and day. An entire region feared him. Jesus commanded the demons out. They begged to enter a nearby herd of pigs. He permitted it. 2,000 pigs then ran off a cliff into the sea. The man was found sitting calmly, clothed, completely sane. The Transfiguration stands apart from every other miracle. On a mountaintop, Jesus' entire appearance changed, his face blazed like the sun, his clothing became pure white light. Moses and Elijah appeared beside him. A voice from a cloud declared, "This is my beloved Son." The disciples fell on their faces, terrified. This wasn't a healing. It wasn't a nature miracle. It was a direct glimpse into the divine nature of Jesus himself. One of the strangest miracles is almost a footnote. Tax collectors demanded payment. Jesus told Peter to go fishing. He said the first fish he caught would have a coin in its mouth, exactly enough for both their taxes. Peter caught the fish. There was the coin. This miracle required coordinating a specific fish, a specific coin, and a specific fisherman's hook, simultaneously. The odds are beyond calculation. Yet it happened. And finally, the miracle that defines everything else. The resurrection. 3 days after crucifixion, the tomb was empty. The stone moved. The grave clothes left behind, folded. The guards could not explain it. Over 500 people claimed to see Jesus alive after death. Paul records this as historical fact, noting most witnesses were still alive when he wrote it, available to be questioned. Every miracle points here. The tomb